What's up, beautiful PHP people? Welcome back to another episode of Urgent PHP. Before we dive into it, let me just say thanks to all the awesome people just joining right now. Zian, Maltroy, Agent, of course. Maltroy, thank you so much for the 14 months already through Prime on Twitch. I really appreciate your support. You're absolutely awesome. And yeah, what else we have to talk about before we jump straight into the hot topics of the PHP community? We have to say thanks to our sponsors. So, of course, SERP API, if you want to have this nice Google API as an API. Of course, Bento. Bento is awesome. Check them out. They do some nice marketing email campaigns. Bento now. PHP Storm, of course, the best company ever doing editors in the planet. And Red Bear International, if you want to have some nice digital agency doing Laravel and viewing. Code Rabbit, if you want to have some nice AI reviewing your code, check them out, okay? W sponsors everyone. They're awesome. PHP Annotated saying hi. What's up, dude? Let's actually speak with PHP Annotated. Brent, how you doing, dude? Nice to see you, man.
Hey Nuno, it's good to be here once again. We did PHP verse 2 weeks ago, and it also already feels like so long ago, don't you think?
Yes, we did PHP verse, dude. It was so awesome. We have so much to talk about on that topic as well today. Welcome everyone to PHP Urgent or Urgent PHP episode 2. Today we are going to cover very important topics including why generics got rejected, type PHP, which is a TypeScript of PHP, Nicholas Gracchus' new RFC, and also why Reddit is mad at me and Brent. But let's talk about everything in the betweens. First of all, PHP verse. How was PHP verse for you, Brent? It was awesome?
Oh, Nuno, it was so great. It was so great. I think what was especially good to see is that it did better than last year. With like a second edition, that's always kind of the hype is kind of gone, but it was like on all aspects it was better than last year. So I'm looking forward to next year. Actually, Nuno, we're already planning some things. So
Already planning next year.
Yeah.
What's the deal with the trailer though? The trailer in the PHP documentary. Do you guys have dates for that one?
Like when it will be released?
Yeah.
No, nothing yet. No, they're still interviewing people.
Okay.
So, yeah. And we're actually, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I'm going to say it. We really want Rasmus in it because that wouldn't make any sense without Rasmus.
Right.
But Rasmus doesn't really want. So,
Really?
we're trying. He's busy.
Right.
As far as I understood. So we're really trying our best there because it would be very weird to have a documentary about PHP without a creator of PHP.
Right. I see.
Trying our best. Yeah.
That was PHP
yeah.
verse, and I had a blast, by the way. Raphael, how you doing? Welcome to the live stream. What's up, you all? I hope you guys had a nice PHP verse. By the way, if you watch PHP verse, type on the chat. I have watched it. We want to know how many people from the live stream today were actually on PHP verse. All right, let's just dive into the podcast, I think. Okay, let's dive into the podcast. Very, very important topics today. Okay, very important topics, including generics got rejected. Do you actually got an understanding like why generics got rejected, Brent?
They're working on reified generics, which means that they want generics to be type checked at runtime, basically. Look, I'm talking to Rob at the moment, who is working on this new version of the RFC that's been built on the current RFC. Just for context, the current RFC adds generic syntax without actually checking the types at runtime, which is a good thing. Generics are not a runtime tool. Actually, the whole type system isn't a runtime tool, but that's a discussion for another day. And so you get beautiful syntax. You still get to use your static analyzers, and it all just works. And you get a reflection API, which is really good for framework development and package development that want to use that generic type information during runtime, but not checking the types itself. So that RFC is not going to happen. Too many people vote no because they want a new version of the RFC with type checked at runtime, basically.
So clarify something to me, if you don't mind. When you say they want ratified generics, meaning that they want generics to be checked at runtime, are you saying that everyone wants that? Like everyone, including because my original thinking when I look at the discussions, like everyone is discussing with everyone on that RFC and blah 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 blah. My concern is that it will never be a consensus, because there is multiple ways you can approach generics, which is what I've talked on the video. You can have type erase generics, which is like the RFC proposed, and it's literally like Python right now. You can have rectified generics, which is types being checked at runtime, and that's another way of having generics within a language. I personally, honestly, I don't fucking care as long as we have generics. But my concern is that they will never actually find a consensus, and for that reason, we will never see generics in PHP. But do you think if we have typed checked at runtime generics with rectified, I think that's the name of that approach. Do you think do you think there will be a chance of having generics in PHP?
I think the chances have never been as good as now, to be honest. So yes, maybe actually in 1 or 2 years, they want to target PHP 9 for it. Maybe we will actually get generics. But I find that you ask like who agrees and what kind of group, like, the, are there ever gonna find consensus? The whole problem I have with the way that PHP is governed is that it's a group of very talented programmers, but they are all coming with their own agendas, and it's just yeah, it is, and I find that some very important voices are not represented in that group, like the big framework vendors, for example, the people who actually drive PHP in real life, and yeah, it is a problem. I don't like a committee, is what I like to call it. It will always lead to like an average solution at best, because everyone's compromising. You need to find a solution that works well enough for everyone, for both sides that are on like have very different opinions, and thus by definition you arrive at average solutions. And I think I would rather arrive at great solutions where 5% of the time I don't agree with whatever is decided, but 95% of the time I do. Anyway, that's my opinion, and people disagree, and that's fine, I guess. We'll see. It's been 10 years that we've been discussing generics.
I know.
10 years.
I know.
Yeah. What did I say?
Just by the way, chat, let me know what you guys personally think about this generics RFC, if you fully agree with it, and if you'd like to have it on the core. Everyone typing WRFC if you agree with it, or just type LRFC if you don't agree with it. By the way, we have about 60 people watching the live stream right now, so I really appreciate you guys being on that side. Don't forget, go to my YouTube channel, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you want to support my work. Subscribe PHP Annotated as well. That's the best way you guys can support our work. Just subscribe to the channels, okay? Yeah. Now, just a couple of times just to read, if you don't mind, the chat real quick. We have Adrian saying shots fired. I honestly think like they... I don't want to make this like a they versus we, but I do think
Can I pitch in
it.
there, Nuno, because it's super important here that the things I and other people are criticizing isn't people, it isn't individuals, it's just 100%. A process that has grown, and I acknowledge you cannot just change it from one day to another. My honest opinion is that the way PHP is governed these days is far from ideal, and PHP would be in a much better place if we changed it, and that there is no judgment over any of the people who are doing very great work on the PHP's RFCs and PHP core. But it's just like it's not the ideal situation, and I think for PHP to be a more modern language that can thrive for the coming 2-3 decades, we really need a change. That's my opinion. You can disagree, and I'm totally fine with that. But I feel like I'm also allowed to just say that without having to be like said that I'm firing shots or anything.
No.
Adrian, you're totally fine.
Yeah, but I honestly think, Brand, like, it's kind of cool. Like, I don't know if the fact that I'm now creating content on YouTube and you are also creating content on YouTube, like, we are literally creating a bunch of content. And we see more people speaking about PHP internals, okay? So I'm not saying it's because of us, but we do see more and more people talking about PHP internals. Now, I think like when something is subject to critics, like subject to criticism, that's a good thing. That's the only way people can actually evolve, and the only way things can actually evolve. Now, I'm skipping topics here already, but I want to kind of explain my thoughts, okay? My thoughts is that currently the PHP internals are like a sealed box, It's very difficult to understand if my opinion is getting heard, So if any of the PHP internals is listening to me right now, okay, either via podcast or via YouTube Live or via YouTube video, just let me know through email or publicly if you want to, if you guys hear the community, okay? And I'm part of the community. Brent is part of the community. And if that's the case, perfect. I would really like to know that. Because my perception right now is that it's not easy for me to get heard, and it's not easy for me to understand how I can get heard as well. People say, oh, you need to go to the mailing list and have a discussion. That's the most difficult thing in the planet. Like, and I think I'm a very smart guy. I'm going to be honest. I think I'm a smart guy. And I don't understand how can I go to that discussions, okay? The last time I have sent an email to the mailing list story, I had to have a call with someone. That someone had to explain me like a few things, and that was super confusing. So I think like this is what we have currently. Obviously, it's subject to a lot of approval, if I'm honest. But we also have maybe to discuss what is the ideal solution. And I've been thinking about this, like, what is the ideal solution? Like, if I could snap my fingers and I would just instantly change, like, this committee story, this PHP internals, these debates, like, how can I instantly do that? And I've been thinking about this. Brust, for example, discusses everything publicly on GitHub. In hindsight, that might be like a perfect solution. You know, it's super transparent, like Adrian is saying right now on the chat. But at the same time, do we actually want every single one to be able to raise their opinions on things? Because, you know, maybe I'm like in hindsight, it may look a good idea, but if everyone can go to a discussion and give their opinions on, you might get an opinion from someone who is like very context aware, you know, someone who has been following this stuff forever. And then you get an opinion as well with the same level of visibility of someone who was not involved from the beginning, who is not aware of the context. So, you know, in hindsight, GitHub looks amazing, GitHub discussions, because everyone can participate on them. But at the same time, I do understand that some people's opinion are like a little bit more important than others. You know what I mean? Like if Taylor Otwell... If Taylor Otwell spends 3 days investigating to actually write something down to the PHP internals, that opinion needs to have more visibility than some random dude who's just saying double generics and we want generics on the car. So I don't know, man. What do you think about all of this I've said?
I would even go like 10 steps further, you know? The way I think successful software should be governed. You have the perfect example there. What is the most successful project ever in PHP when it comes to like
WordPress?
user base, but also marketing? Second best. I'm Laravel, but actually WordPress is also the same example. Why is that? Because there's one person who has the final say and who's leading the vision of the project. And PHP is no different. PHP is a technical project like anything else. Actually, you can apply this principle on basically everything in the world. You need someone who has a vision, who has people who are willing to follow that vision, that leader person, they should listen to the feedback of the community. They should not just go and decide whatever they want. No, they make informed, balanced decisions. But there's one person who's driving who's driving everything basically. As far as I understand, with Laravel, even until today, Taylor still gets a final say. If he doesn't want a pull request merged in Laravel, it's not gonna happen. And that happened a lot in the past. You can say, oh, Taylor is ignoring us, or he doesn't understand our use case, or this or that. But in the end, like, see where Laravel is today, how successful it is. It cannot be compared. Like PHP pales in comparison to the success of Laravel, which is like kind of crazy because Laravel is built on PHP. But people are now thinking and describing themselves as Laravel developers. They don't even care that it's PHP anymore. Could be any other technology underneath. And this is what Taylor has done so geniusly well. And what I think is a much better approach to software development in general. We had some of these people in the past. You know, we had Rasmus in the very beginning. We had at a very later, well, not at a very later stage. Then Zend came in and kind of took charge. And this was a company, but still like a single entity with a single opinion, driving the language forward. Then there was a huge period where things got very bad. Remember PHP 6, right? Then PHP kind of had to get their act together because Facebook was going to steal everything from them with hack. Then Nikita came in, a visionary. Apparently, almost all RFCs that Nikita proposed just like got accepted unanimously. Not because they were all the perfect solutions, but because Nikita had a vision for the language and was able to phrase it and stage it in a way that people actually got convinced and were like, okay, we're going to follow you. And then Nikita left PHP for reasons. And now we're back in a stage where there is no consensus at all. There's no leadership. There's no vision. The only organization that has gotten trust, financial trust, and endorsement from the wider PHP community is the PHP Foundation. And even they cannot make any meaningful decision without having to go through a list of 50-ish people who get to decide whether they agree or not. And again, that's not a... I'm not making any judgment on those 50 to 100 people who are doing their very best on internals and working on PHP core. They are very talented developers. They are very great people. But it's just not the way a software project this scale should be led, in my opinion, again. And I think we have good examples of other ways that work a lot better.
So, so just to recap a little bit what exactly we have just said, what I have said in my side is that this lack of transparency, lack of having other people share their opinions, and this is what I have kind of expressed. And what Brent have expressed, from my understanding, is that the government decisions is so disparate right now across so many people without having this proper leader or visionary, and for that reason, no decisions are made and the language does not move forward. So a lot of people saying on the chat, by the way, Brent, that they totally agree with you, okay? We see Rock, we see Simon Amp as well, Joaquinito, Nopsy saying as well. So a lot of people on the chat saying that they agree with you. John Sugar, Adrian as well. A lot of people saying that the vote should change a little bit. And I think, how do we actually change this right now? Because decisions needs to be made by the current season who makes decisions. So
we don't change this, Nuno. It's impossible to change. The only thing that can make a change, and this happened before, I already mentioned it, it was Facebook with Hack. There should be a competitor to PHP who might actually stir up enough of the things happening here that people are like, okay, maybe we do need a change because otherwise we just lose our whole community. Something recently has been happening that might actually have a chance there. Many side notes to make. For the record, I don't want PHP to go away. I love PHP. I want it to just be awesome and continue to be awesome. I think there is so much more potential here, and there are
So from my understanding, you wanna the type PHP story to go forward and actually fix PHP. Because, that's what happens with JavaScript. Like JavaScript, they were taking too long to take decisions. TypeScript came along, and suddenly you have a fucking perfect language that transpiles to JavaScript. And it really it fits like a glove to the JavaScript ecosystem. That's why everyone is doing at the minute TypeScript. And I think
Can we... Before we go any further, Nuno, maybe you need to give a quick introduction of what type PHP is.
100%. So, by the way, chat, we have across 100 people watching the live stream right now. We are streaming on TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, all of the social medias at the minute. So we are promoting PHP, man. We are bringing the spiciness to PHP. So if you guys are enjoying this content, make sure you go to nunomaduro.com, nunomaduro on YouTube, and subscribe my channel. That's the best way you can support my work. And also PHP Annotated, of course, if you want to support Brand's work. Now, a small introduction about type PHP, right? So for those who are not familiar with type PHP, what happened was on the same day the generics RFC got rejected, literally on that same day, the Swol team renamed their compiler to type PHP. Now, if you're not familiar with the Swol compiler, that's basically something the Swol team has been working on that allows the following. So today we have PHP as an interpreted language. Goes through the various PHP files. You have to ship literally the interpreter to the server as well. Every single time you have a request. So this happens all the time. Request comes, PHP itself will read the PHP files to produce a response. Now, what the Swol team have done is transform a little bit of PHP on something like Go or Rust, meaning that the request comes and you have only the binary that filters that request and produces a response. Now, why this is interesting? For various reasons, because you don't have to ship PHP to the server anymore. You just ship a binary that works just magically. But also, at the same time, you have this compilation step that also does some static analysis in the process. And you have speed performance improvements like Rust or Go. You are shipping a binary to production. Now, this was called, if I'm not mistaken, Swole IoT, if I'm not mistaken, as a project. Like Elephancy, like Cesar is saying on the chat, is literally like Elephancy, okay? Literally the same stuff. However, the Swole compiler brings something a little bit more interesting, which is it also works with dynamic code. That's probably the biggest thing on this Swole compiler, is that it also works with dynamic code. So if you have an array, for example, or magic methods like Laravel does, it will still continue to work. So that is a huge potential for this story. Now, on the day the RFC got rejected, the Swole team renamed their compiler to Type PHP. I repeat, to Type PHP. Now, do not tell me that this is not a marketing strategy, because it is. Okay? What this story will end up being, and I'm praying for that, okay, is a nice visionary behind that project, which will bring literally TypeScript kind of to PHP, meaning that as a PHP lover myself, I will be able to write type PHP code, and that will end up producing PHP itself and working on my PHP projects. This is what type PHP is about, and I think like it's potentially what Brent was saying that could change a lot the future of PHP, in the sense that is, it will instantly change the governance behind the code we produce in PHP. So what is your thoughts on type PHP, Brent? I don't think you have publicly shared your thoughts on it. So
I was waiting for this moment, Nuno.
All right, go ahead, man. This will be a nice clip. Chat, clip on Twitch, okay, everyone.
This is my moment. First things first, it's not entirely the same as TypeScript, because it actually compiles to a binary and then runs it through their runtime or whatever. I don't know how it works exactly, but TypeScript just gets compiled to raw JavaScript. This is not getting compiled to just normal PHP anymore, as far as I understood. But type PHP is super cool. I think it shows what is possible, because this is done by the Swole team, who are Swole, by the way, that's an extension for PHP that's already available that makes a bunch of things asynchronous. So these folks are know what they're doing, very talented programmers. I think there is a very big challenge for them, Nuno, and you might not expect this, but it is the language and cultural barrier. These the Swole folks, very talented developers, they are all in China, and they have tried to interact with PHP internals in the past when Fibers was discussed, and that always led to lots of confusion and nothing happening, because there is a huge barrier there. On the language, on the cultural level, but also just the fact that China as a country is kind of isolated from our more Western point of view, right? On like, they don't get access to YouTube, for example. They have their own social media channels. That when they introduced the compiler, it's a blog post written in Chinese. You have to translate it, and then when you want to join their community, it's on WeChat, which most of us don't really have. Everyone in China have it, but these are pretty big challenges actually for the project to reach a wide audience across the world, I find. So that's my first thought. Second thought is that I hope that it will end up being something like Hack, where it gains a bit of popularity, and then it kind of shakes PHP internals and whoever is in charge of PHP, shakes them up and wakes them up and says like, okay, maybe we need to make some changes on our side as well, because like people are leaving. So I hope that's what will happen. And then I'm pretty sure, like I've heard that PHP and Swole is like huge in China. We did a little bit we tried to do a little bit of research on that side as well, but it's pretty difficult, again, because of like the many barriers, not just for PHP, but like on all levels, it's difficult to reach and interact with China. So I hope it will reach enough popularity to get PHP, get their act together. That's basically my stance at the moment.
So, right. Makes a lot of sense. So you think that the barrier on the language will potentially not getting, first of all, that project that popular because people don't even know that it exists. I think that's a very good point. At the same time, you feel like, because one of the problems we saw with Hack is that they literally forget the community, meaning that the Hack was like originally a very good idea. By the way, Hack, for those who don't know, is this compiler done by Facebook and, end up actually only work for Facebook. And that's partly the reason why it didn't get popular, because they literally forgot the community entirely. So Hack was not working with Laravel, Hack was not working with Symfony. And for that reason, Hack didn't actually end up being popular. And you think that potentially that may also happen with the Swell compiler, just because, we actually don't know, right? Because they said the compiler, the type PHP compiler, will come out in October this year.
Yes.
That's around also when PHP 8.6 come out. So, yeah, I don't know, man. What I really hope, though, is I'm able, and I think like they really need to nail this, okay? They really need to nail this. Like, and we have seen this with Mago as well. Like, I really think that for a project to be successful, it needs to instantly work with existing projects. Meaning that a lot of people who are watching this video right now, or this podcast, or this live stream right now, a lot of them, they have Symfony projects, they have Laravel projects, okay? They see a project like Mago or Type PHP or others who look very good on paper. They try it down locally, and it doesn't work. That's a fucking horrible experience, okay? I understand that it is technical constraints and blah, 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 blah. But before you actually put anything out, you need to make sure it works properly with Symfony and properly with Laravel, because that's what people are doing, okay? You can say, it works very well with native PHP or with raw PHP, and vanilla PHP. But nobody is doing that. Like, who is doing vanilla PHP? Nobody is doing that. So I think, like, first of all, they need to figure out that story. If Type PHP were to be successful since day one in October 2026, they need to figure out that story. Now, if they figured out that story, and if they literally have what they promised on the article, because they had some crazy stuff, man. You can literally chain methods on strings. How crazy this is. You can do hello world dot or arrow and then go two lower. And I found that thing fantastic. And if they can bring that thing on the paper to actually something that works for everyone, it will be dope.
Yes, then you would also need IDE support, because that's pretty crucial. You don't want errors all over 100%. The place when you're writing the code. So that's also a pretty important part, which I hope they have on their radar. But look at it from a Western company's point of view, right? Here is this company in China leading an open source project where most of the documentation is still in Chinese. They don't, there are no proper translations of it. Would you, as a company, make the decision to change your stack to a whole other runtime, possibly embracing that new syntax so that you're basically locked into like this new language at this point? It's not PHP anymore. Without the chance to go back when things go south. That's a pretty huge risk to take. Now, that's from our Western point of view. I want to point out that China is almost one quarter of the world or something like that. They are doing great over there. I don't think they have the biggest incentive to make it worldwide. I don't think that's needed for their success. So it's more an us problem than a their problem.
Right. I see. Yeah, that's the editor support needs to be top notch from the beginning as well, right? So PHP Storm would have to work with it from the beginning, which is a lot of work to think about, right? Because there's a lot of features. Indeed. Chat, I want every single one of you to type W, type PHP if you want that project to be successful on the PHP ecosystem. And if you don't think, just write in the chat also, what do you think about this story? Yeah. Meanwhile, don't forget, go all the way down, subscribe my YouTube channel. If you guys are having fun listening to this conversation, I'm having a lot of fun. So let's move forward to the next topic of today. Otherwise, we stay here all day. Brent, I love to chat with you, but we need to talk about Nicholas Gracchus' new RFC. Can you explain me, first of all, who is Nicholas Gracchus for everyone who don't know him, but also what is this new RFC about?
Nicolas is one of the core contributors of Symfony. Has been there from the very, very beginning, almost. I think he's the second man in Symfony, and so he makes a couple RFCs here and there, and he just also proposed an RFC, and it went to voting, and it's failing for a new magic method called exist, which basically tries to solve the problem of when you use the null coalescing operator or is set on a class property, for example. It returns true in two cases. It returns true when a property doesn't exist or has been unset or never been set before, but it also returns true when the value is null. And so you have one function is set and then null coalescing that builds on top of that. You have this one concept that actually checks for two things. And so Nicolas, he wants to fix that by adding an optional new magic exists method where you can hook into yourself if you want to on the class, where you can return true or false depending on whether the property actually exists or not. I think it on lower level code, this really is a problem. And there are ways around it with reflection, which isn't ideal. But especially when you're talking about stuff like data mappers or ORMs, for example, you need to be able to distinguish between a missing property and null. And so you can get around that with reflection, but it's not really ideal. So Nicolas proposes a new magic exists method.
Do we have the
downvoted?
Yeah. Do we have the result already of the RFC?
It's not gonna I think it's 17 people voted no or abstain and no one voted yes. So
wow. Okay. Yeah. My thoughts on the RFC is also no, just because I feel like it would, first of all, will be something just for libraries and maintainers. Okay. It's not something you would do instantly for every single user land project. And for that reason, that's a no by itself already. Meaning that if we are shipping something to the core just to make slightly easier or just to add a little bit of syntactic sugar to something that can be done already, and this will be done and used only by framework authors, that's a no. I don't feel it's worth the complexity.
Nuno, I want to propose a counter argument there, because what makes PHP great, it is the ecosystem of frameworks. And so I think it is important to support the frameworks themselves as well, because without them there wouldn't be much of PHP left. So and like I think it is a real problem, maybe not on every project that you might encounter, but don't underestimate how much code you're using and you're building on top of that's underneath there powering everything. So but the problem why like no one really likes it that much is because it's another magic method.
Another magic method, yes.
I get that. At the same time, like, it is PHP, right? Like, what do we plan? We can't even get consensus on generics, let alone that we'll ever be able to get rid of magic methods. So I'm here like, this is one of these things that I would like to see differently, but at the same time, I'm also like, okay, but actually, if this solves the issue in a more elegant way than to rely on reflection, then and it is consistent with PHP. I mean, there are many magic methods, but now we don't really want magic methods anymore. I get that, but what are you gonna get rid of all the other magic methods? And no, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah,
so I don't know.
This goes again into a little bit of the thing where there is no vision, so therefore we don't know exactly where we are going, if we are going down the path of super strict PHP or not. And goes a little bit down that path. And I think like with 50 people voting, it will be literally impossible to actually, have a vision on this one. Regardless, we just have a rate of 30 people. Welcome to the chat, everyone. By the way, in case you don't know us, my name is Nuno. I'm here with my very good friend Brent. We are discussing PHP. Okay, this is the urgent topics of PHP. We love PHP. We are fanatic with the PHP ecosystem, and this is exactly what we are doing here today. By the way, we have 150 people watching the podcast. Isn't this fucking unbelievable? It is nice. Crazy.
Like this is just the casual recording section session for afterwards. We're gonna edit this properly, and then it's gonna be released on all the platforms. So
Exactly.
Urgent, more behind the scenes.
Urgent PHP is a new podcast that we are doing right now. By the way, it's also on transistor.fm, so you can listening on Apple, Spotify, and all those cool things. Make sure you subscribe to our channels. Blah 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 blah. I want to speak with you about something real quick before we end this off.
Yeah.
I want to speak about how awesome was discussing with Larry Garfield at PHPverse. So Larry Garfield is the creator of many PHP features like enums. By the way, wenums, everyone typing wenums. Pipe operator, which is a feature that initially I did agree, but now I don't. But he also created that RFC as well. He created many RFCs, and I find it like, when I was discussing with him at PHPverse, I find it like so cool just to be able to speak with someone from the internals. You know what I mean? And we discussed a lot of things. And one of the things we discussed, which I kind of want to know your opinion, everyone in the chat, I want to hear your opinion as well, is interface default methods and how cool this would be on the PHP ecosystem.
Oh, no.
All right.
Please, yes. Can we have them?
Yeah. So I know what it is, by the way. Interface default methods, for those who are not aware of it, is a feature that actually on Rust already exists. Okay, it means the following. It means that you are able to define what is the contract of a specific implementation, but at the same time, you can specify as well what is the default implementation like you would do on abstract classes. So he was pitching this to me, and I was like, holy shit, that is really good. Like, I use that on Rust. I would 100% use that on PHP too. You know what I mean? So, by the way, Shad, I want to hear your opinions on this one. Type W interface default methods if you agree with me. Brent, what do you think?
Oh man, like I actually think we talked about this briefly during PHPverse. Even more than generics, I want interface default methods, because generics we have a dog block syntax. We'll manage. We've been managing for 10 years. We'll be fine. We just want some improvements there, but it's fine. But interface default methods. I just did a quick search in the Tempest code base. There are 244 interfaces, right? And for not all of them, but for most of them, we ship a trait with a default implementation. Because this is a topic for probably another day to go like deep dive into it, but I really don't think that the classic inheritance approach is the best way to go, especially when you're talking about technical functionality as with a framework. But anyway, the interfaces that have just a default implementation that you can still override, and then, because this is actually where the key is, Nuno. I say interface default methods. Other people say that's just an abstract class.
It's
right?
not. Yeah.
It's not, because you can implement multiple interfaces.
Yes.
You can have multi-inheritance.
Exactly.
With interfaces. and as soon as people realize how powerful this is,
yes,
and how much problems are solved, and the problem with multi-inheritance, by the way, is the classic diamond pattern, where you have one class implementing two interfaces where there are where there are two methods that are named the same, or two properties in our case, because now we have properties on interface as well, and that they collide, right? And how do you deal with those collisions? But the good thing is, with traits, we already have a solution for that.
Yes.
We just need to copy it to interfaces and be done with it. The problem in PHP for multi-inheritance has actually already been solved. Like, to solve these collisions, we have it with traits. It works. It's not super convenient, but actually it barely ever happens, like these collisions. It barely happens. It's not an issue like that should define whether this RFC succeeds or not. But yeah.
So just to clarify, we can already do interface default methods by having 3 interfaces in a trait for each one of them that specifies the default implementation. So this, and chat, let me know what you guys think, but I think like interface default methods would effectively kill abstract classes. I don't see a reason why I would ever use abstract classes ever again if I had the interface default methods at the same time. Even traits, like potentially traits. Well, they would have a use case traits though, still for default. like for protected methods and private methods, you can shed effectively.
Maybe, yeah.
But that can be also another class. So I think like traits and abstract classes, they will be effectively just killed.
Yeah, and I had like this beautiful thought, Nuno, and it's slipping on my mind now. So
No, it's all right. It's all right. By the way, all of the chat is like going nuts at the minute with interface default methods. I would expect less. I would not expect less from you guys. Adrian saying that it kills 90% of the traits, 99% of the abstract classes. One question from Coach Schroeder is saying the following: can you have this property on an interface method? Yes, you can. That's actually a very good question, because if you would preserve some state on default implementations on interfaces, how would you, for example, have a property? That's actually a very, very nice question. Like how the RFC solves that. I don't know. I know that RFC got rejected already. So,
this was an RFC, let's see, 2022 already. Time flies. And it got 15 votes in favor and 17 against.
That was close.
No, you need a 2/3 majority.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That was kind of close still,
Yeah. So there's that. Yeah.
Wow.
This would be like absolutely, Nuno. If you ask me, like my number one feature I want added in PHP, it's actually this, because it makes my life so much easier. You can't imagine, and someone in chat said it as well, like having to name things, because I really don't like classes or interfaces or traits with the same name. So I usually opt for the interface to have the clearest name, but then what do you name the trait that goes along like that interface? I don't really like suffixing with trait either. So yeah, how do you deal with that? So in my case, what I do, like for example, there's the request interface that models an HTTP request, right? And then the trait with the default implementation, that's called isRequest. So because that this provides the implementation for the request. That's kind of works in 99% of cases, and then there are like weird words sometimes that doesn't really work. But okay, I like consistency, so I'm always very anxious to try to find something that works there. But interface default methods, man. Yeah. Oh, I remember what I wanted to say. You mentioned that abstract classes might essentially be gone. I think classic inheritance, like the single chain inheritance, the tree, right, where you start from one point and go down in your class hierarchy, I think it still makes sense to model more kind of business domains, where you're talking like not from a technical perspective, but more from like say you have an invoice, right? And you have different types of invoices. There, I think inheritance can still play a good role to actually use classic extend inheritance to model different types of invoices, stuff like that. That might work. But when we're talking from a technical point of view, dude, interfaces are so much easier to work with. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Anyway. Interface default methods for the win, chat. I want to thank you for being on that side. So, by the way, don't forget, you need to support our work if you want to see more of this. So, if you like the Urgent PHP podcast, it's super important that you go right now to YouTube and put like on the Urgent Podcast episode 1. This episode will be edited out and published tomorrow at 1 p.m. Once the episode goes out, you guys need to go there, write comments, put likes, subscribe to channels. You guys need to do all that engagement so PHP get promoted to the world and everyone knows how PHP is. Now, chat, I'm about to publish a new video on my YouTube channel. Literally, I just done it right now. Let me click on the publish button. And this is a very important video, okay, chat? A lot of you ask me what, how my day looks like and why I am so productive and blah, 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 blah. So yesterday I've recorded a video, literally close to my home. It's in the outside, okay? And I just published that video right now. So I'm going to share that video with you guys. And I want every single one of you to go to the video right now and click on the like button, okay? Insanely important to promote my work to the world. Here we go. This is the YouTube video right now. Go there, click on the like button, and watch the entire video. Also, something important I want to tell you is that if you enjoy the Urgent PHP podcast, but this video I'm just sharing with you right now, it's super important that you watch the entire content. That's also super important to make YouTube understand how awesome our content is. Okay, so that's it. This is the link for the YouTube video. Make sure you go there again, click on the like button, add a comment on what you think about my productivity hacks, and what are the things you are struggling with regarding productivity. That's what the video is about. I hope you guys really enjoyed this Urgent PHP podcast. Brent, do you want to say goodbye to people real quick?
Yeah, sure, folks. Thanks for tuning in, and I just want to reiterate once more that I think it's good that we're trying to voice constructive criticism. We should do that more because we can, as a community, learn from that together. Yes. I can be wrong in areas as well, so I'm super open to have conversations about like all these topics with people who disagree. And I do that quite a lot, and I'm super grateful that people, some people at least, really want to engage in that conversation in a respectful manner.
And it's important, like literally, I'm creating content now about PHP internals, and I love how this is shaking things. You are creating content too. We are both like shaking things. Like this is just a reality. Like you go to Reddit, people are just like going nuts. We go to Twitter, people are going nuts as well. This is so good to spike criticism, and therefore things are going to evolve. Chat, this is it for PHP and Urgent PHP. Make sure you go down again to my recently published video on YouTube right now. Make sure to click on the like button, subscribe to the channel. Love you all, and catch you guys next time. Peace out.
Bye-bye.